everyone, it's me, Miranda, and I'm coming at you with a new video, and it's about something that I'm really excited about. So a while ago, when I was graduating college, I was thinking, oh, I should paint some bigger pieces because I'm usually like an 8x10 comfort size kind of person. So I thought, hey, I should branch out and do some bigger pieces, but I didn't like how expensive canvases were, and I hated doing it myself, wrapping all of the canvas around the bars and all that. I was just so over that. So I thought, hey, before I graduate, I'm going to swing by the woodworking classroom and I'm going to see what kind of scrap woods I can get, because we were encouraged to get scrap woods in my printmaking class for wood blocks. So I was like, oh, I could paint on it instead. So I went down and I got a nice big piece of wood and I thought, hey, cool, this was just for free. So that kind of sparked the very first time that I was super into scavenging painting surfaces, and it's kind of just gone crazy from there. I do things on reclaimed wood, which is what this video is about. I also do stuff on flooring samples, the little 4x4 or 2x3 flooring samples, reclaimed cutting boards from the thrift store, decorative plaques. If we take apart a piece of furniture, I'll use stuff from that. And all sorts of crap, all types of wood. And so this video is about kind of how to do that and how to make it a good painting surface. So enjoy, and if you have questions, just throw them down in the comments. I'd love to hear it, and I want to see what you guys make too. And I hope that this opens up a wide breadth of availabilities of surfaces for you guys to paint on. Just a disclaimer, I work predominantly in acrylic and mixed media, basically water-based things. I don't touch oils, so if you are looking for advice on oil painting, just don't. I work in like latex house paint and just like liquid acrylics, these kind of guys. And I hope you guys learned something, so let's go. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is gather materials. So you need something to cut the wood with. Any kind of saw is good. You need a sanding block, a fine tooth is better, a ruler and something to mark it with, like charcoal, gesso and paintbrush, modeling paste if you have any holes you need to fill, and, of course, your piece of wood. Hello! So we're outside and we have our scrap wood. Once you have your scrap wood, and you have your marks drawn on them, as you know where to cut it. Once you have that, then you want to get out with your power tools or your handsaw or samurai sword or whatever you decide to use to cut it. There's really no wrong way as long as you can make a straight line. Yeah, and then just cut it. Make sure you have safety stuff, because you don't want your eyeballs or your hearing to go away, because we need those for things. And basically just cut it. Or if you're not feeling safe to do it, you can maybe do like a trade for somebody, like, oh, I'll do you a painting if you cut all this wood for me. We're gonna cut some wood! As you can see, my saw is not quite long enough, so I just feed it in the other way. Not too shabby! Since I had to feed it in twice, I got just a little tiny chunk, but since it's reclaimed wood, that's just part of the charm. Yeah, that's a perfectly good surface to sand and prime. Alright, so I'm gonna cut up the rest of these guys. Woo! Alright, so now we're at the second stage of prepping the wood surfaces. So as you notice, after you've sawed them, they have really rough edges and there's a splinter risk. So you definitely don't want to give your customers splinters when they buy your paintings, because that's bad customer service. Sanding also kind of gets rid of any kind of surface grime that that may be stuck on them, because you don't know where they've been, what they used to do, what kind of nasty things these pieces of wood used to get up to. Ew. So we're gonna sand them. We're gonna teach them a lesson. The only tools you need, I like sanding blocks just because you can use the corners to kind of get into little nooks and crannies. This is a pretty fine-toothed one. I like these. And a face mask. Not because you're gonna catch COVID from your wood pieces, but because there's dust and stuff and it gets up your nose and it's gross. So, suit up. And you basically just sand the edges. It's best to do it outside because it's messy, as you can see. Look at all that. You see all that crap coming off? Sparkles! I like to get the corners, kind of round them out just a little bit. Really just as much as you want, just to get the rough edge off. Sometimes you don't need to hit the finished edges as bad as you do the sawed ones, but just make sure it feels nice. Get any kind of little chippies off. And if you really want to accentuate the wood grain, you always sand with the grain, not against it. But because I don't care, I like to just do big circles like that. Pick the nicest side to paint on and to do your circles. And that way the gesso will stick better, and your paints will stick better when it has just a little bit of tooth. And yeah, good forearm workout. Pretty straightforward. Let's grab a different type of wood. This is more of a composite, I think. It's you can see it's more like a, I don't know. It's not like a plank like this guy, you know, no grain. So with this one, you just go nuts. This was actually part of packing material from when my roommate bought new washer and dryers. A new washer and dryer. So it had like tape stuck to it. So I'm going to try to sand off that kind of residual adhesive from the tape. That'll probably get covered up when I do my first layer of primer. Yeah. Perf. Tasty. So good. Okay. Repeat ad nauseum. I have a whole pile here to do, so I better get busy.
Three hours later.
Okay, so now that we have sanded our nice pile of scrap wood surfaces, we have our guinea pig right here for testing. I like to give it a little bit of a wipe down with a damp cloth, or any kind of cloth is fine, but it gets off some of the dustier pieces. And then the next step is just painting it with some gesso. The gesso is a surface preparation material, if you're not familiar. Acrylic gesso is good for oils or acrylic, which is probably what you're going to use when you paint on wood like this. So let's get started. So good. That's probably way too much. I'm really good at using way too much gesso. And it's pretty standard to need a couple coats. So. And hopefully if your surface is sanded enough, then this should work pretty well. When I have prepared surfaces that were from like furniture, like old shelves, sometimes they have kind of like a shellac or like a really smooth surface, and that one really doesn't like to have paint applied to it. It's very, very much too shiny. So you really have to just sand the dickens out of it. That's a technical term. Sanding the dickens out of it. So yeah, I did use way too much, but you know what? I have another one that I need to do. It never ends. So I'm just going to do this real quick, and then we'll move on to the next step. After your second layer has dried, I would say that's good enough. It's good enough for me. But sometimes, especially when you're using reclaimed wood, you get little bits like this, which is unfortunate because you don't want little bits like that. So you want to fill it in with something, but you want it to be archival and nice still. So what I like to do, what I have found works really well, is modeling paste. I like the Liquitex brand. They make really good medias. I like them a lot. Basically, this is like art grade spackle, you know? Like, you got a hole in your drywall, you spackle it. You got a hole in your wood, you modeling paste it. So I like to get a little bit on my palette knife here. And essentially, all you do... blip. Make sure you kind of push it in, too. And then just kind of scrape it. And then you're good. And you can do that on, you know, all the little imperfections. Usually if you get something that's like that, that was basically nothing. But while you have your modeling paste out, you can smooth some holes out. And kind of scrape it like that. And the nice thing about gesso and modeling paste is that you can sand it. So as soon as you're done here and you let it dry for a good long time, you can sand it down so you don't get any of these little rough spots on here.
We interrupt this YouTube video for a public service announcement.
Whenever I see someone do a stretched canvas piece or painting on wood and the edges are not painted, I want to go crazy. So save me and paint your frickin' edges. And it looks nicer. It's more professional. Just do it. It sucks, but you gotta do it. It looks way better. It's like it's just not finished until you paint the edges. Do it for me! Do it for the band! Alright. This kid's dry to the touch, so now we can sand it. Like I said before, I really like to use a really fine sanding block. If it's too coarse, it'll leave big claw marks. So I like to use this little guy. And just kind of do little concentric circles like that. Oh, so smooth. Oh, it's so smooth. Yes. Oh, and it gets so dirty. Yeah, and this will also buff out the brush strokes from your gesso. You get in there, you get it good. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. And you know what? A little bit of texture never killed anyone, but this makes it really easy to hide if that's not your thing. And I just want to touch it forever, but don't touch it too much. Alright. So I think that just about does it, y'all. I think we're about done. And now this guy is ready for painting. You can do sketches on it. When I draw on the gesso, keep in mind that anything like charcoal is gonna be hard to erase, and pencil, if you press too hard, definitely it'll kind of stick, hard to erase. But the nice thing about doing it on the gesso is that you can just paint over it again with the gesso. So if you do a terrible sketch and it just didn't come out right, just gesso over that guy, call it good, sand it down, try again. It's awesome. You can also do like transfer paper, so it's really, really light on there, and that way you can erase it really easily. But anyway, I'll show you guys some of the stuff that I do on reclaimed wood, some of the more notable pieces, and as you'll see, you can pretty much do anything that's made of wood is pretty good. And you'll get kind of a feel for it as you start perusing hardware stores and you know, construction sites. Actually, most of the stuff that I got today was either on its way to the trash because it was a shipping scrap. They needed 2 boards to do something in the shipping. Anyway, I don't ask questions, I just take the wood. These pieces of pine were from my dad because he just made himself a new workbench or something. He had some sort of project going on, and he knows that I paint on reclaimed wood, so he was like, hey. And I was like, hey, that's that. Alright, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Get out there and reuse some materials. See you later.
And as a fun little tidbit, here's the final piece on the piece of wood that I was working on in the video. It's called Wingin' It. It's super mixed medium, but it's nice and varnished on this piece of wood, and it's gonna last forever. If you guys want to see more of my artwork, head over to my website, which is linked in the description, and subscribe to my videos. I put them out sporadically, just as inspiration strikes, but I'd love to see you there. And show me the things that you create. I'd love to see it. Alright, we'll see ya.